Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So today I got a fun and exciting video for you guys today because I want to be talking about 5 of my favorite hidden gems on Nintendo 64 games like Hybrid Heaven, because maybe you played some of these back in the day, maybe you didn't, maybe you had an N64 console back in the 90s, maybe you were born afterwards, you were more of a PlayStation fan, and even though the Nintendo 64 doesn't have the deepest library compared to PlayStation 1 or Sega Saturn, there's still some games out there that I think you probably haven't played and I want to talk about. Games like Hybrid Heaven, which is basically just Metal Gear Solid without the actual franchise involved, even though it's also from Konami. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But one of my favorite things about Hybrid Heaven is just how insanely high the production values are on all of these cutscenes. There's a really fun story here, some fun camera angles, and it's all done in-engine on that Nintendo 64 3D aesthetic that you know, love, and remember what you're discovering today. And it's one of those things. This game has a very distinct gameplay style and a very distinct combat style, which you're either going to absolutely love or absolutely hate. But if it's one of those games that you tried to play for 10 minutes and just didn't quite get into, do me the favor and give it an hour or two. I'm not trying to say that this is going to live up to how good Metal Gear Solid was on PlayStation 1. I'm just trying to say it is a really fun tactical action game that kind of rethinks what can be done in combat. You're going to have enemies that you can shoot at like any other game, but when you actually get into some of the hand-to-hand combat, you're going to find that it's completely different than you would expect. But I just love how this game looks, especially in high resolution mode, and on MiSTer FPGA's Turbo Core, you get an even better performance out of it. But of course, I'm just kind of using the MiSTer FPGA wrapper as far as editing is concerned to present these things, but this is going to be a great game no matter how you play it, if you're on real hardware or if you're on software emulation as well. But you'll see here as we run around, I love the industrial design setting of these labs and all of the different characters. You kind of really do feel like you're infiltrating some sort of secret lab underground, trying to figure out what's going on, and I'm just showing you the beginning areas of this game because it has a very interesting story with a lot of fun cutscenes and a lot of twists and turns. I don't really want to spoil that for you because the story is a lot of what makes this game so worth it. And you'll see here, dude just got completely sliced from the back. Now we're going to move into the first hand-to-hand combat section. You're going to see it's actually turn-based, which is wild, but this game also has an awesome soundtrack, so go ahead and listen to the music while you see the combat, just how strange it is, and I'll be right back with a lot more games to show. I mean, right there, I think, is what kind of trips people up with Hybrid Heaven. You're having an actual fight, and you're basically picking your commands like you would in any other RPG, so it is not real time, but once you get the hang of it, it actually works relatively well, and it is a very inventive system. Obviously, I think most people went into this game hoping that it would just be kind of more of like a 3D beat-em-up, something like Die Hard Arcade, but you end up getting basically Metal Gear Solid meets an RPG, both in the presentation style as well as in the combat. But trust me, just give Hybrid Heaven some time. I think it's one of the best games on Nintendo 64 that basically no one ever plays. Now, kind of sticking with the not quite Metal Gear Solid, but feels a little bit like Metal Gear Solid category. You got a little scat there. This is Win Back. It's one of the later games in the Nintendo 64 lifecycle, and it really does feel like developers are just trying to give someone a Metal Gear Solid without that franchise. It's got a lot of fun cutscenes. It's got a decent story that's pretty generic, but kind of drives the action forward. But it's got a really nice cover shooting mechanic to it that really does work, especially on N64. Now, you could put something like Sin and Punishment up instead, but I feel like that game definitely doesn't qualify for hidden gem status these days. Maybe 10-15 years ago, but not now. And Win Back is another title that I feel like most people haven't played. Leave me a comment down below and you tell me, did you play Win Back in the day? Have you played it recently? Or if you never actually checked it out, just knew it existed? Because that is the fun thing about the Nintendo 64 library. There's still games that I feel like most people haven't played, and a game like Win Back just kind of had an unfair shake at actually being successful, because when games like this got reviewed, basically every reviewer back in the day in magazines said, well, it's not as good as Metal Gear Solid, and that is true, it isn't. Metal Gear Solid really stood on its own as being one of the best games of its generation of hardware, so something like Winback basically just lost points for not being Metal Gear Solid, but it definitely deserves to be played. It's got a ton of fun going on, and I really do like the cover mechanic and this overall shooting gameplay. It also has a really fun, almost James Bond style soundtrack, so go ahead and listen for 45 seconds and come back, because I still have more games to show you. I mean, obviously the actual soundtrack is relatively generic action movie fodder, but it does work in the context of what you're seeing on screen, and everything else but Winback is just fun. The cover mechanics, the shooting action, the real world scenarios, it kind of just does work well. So if you've never played this game before, I can't recommend that enough, and if it's been like 20-25 years since you checked it out last time, give it another playthrough, because as many games as there are on N64, there's still games like Winback that I feel like most people just don't know about or have never checked out, and it makes me bummed out to know that most people maybe haven't played this game. Now moving over to another game that I think most people do know, but so many people in comments on the N64 MiSTer FPGA testing series said they'd never played before, is Beetle Adventure Racing. When you go to Nintendo 64, everyone talks about Mario Kart 64, Diddy Kong Racing, all the cruising games, San Francisco Rush and Rush 2, 2049 as well, but not many people would actually ever mention Beetle Adventure Racing, which absolutely just bums me out, because this game is incredible. It can definitely be a little bit slow on real hardware, but on the MiSTer FPGA Turbo Core you're going to get some more frames. But of course, however you play this game, my only recommendation is you actually do give it a shot. And again, I understand that every single game in this video would probably qualify for 100% complete hidden gem status, because the N64 library is relatively thin, but I would just always surprised when I would do the MiSTer FPGA testing video series. So many people would say, oh, Beetle Adventure Racing, I remember seeing that in magazines back in the day, but I never actually played it, and to me this is one of the best games on N64. Leave me a comment down below and you tell me, did you play Beetle Adventure Racing or not? I would be curious, because if I do a part 2 in this video, if this does well, there is another awesome 3D arcade racing game that I feel like most people never talk about that I will be showing you as well, but I'm sure you could guess what that is. Leave me your thoughts down below. But Beetle Adventure Racing is basically an unofficial San Francisco Rush as far as how it plays, how it looks, the insane jumps, the insane shortcuts, except it's not actually made by the same development team that did Rush. But anytime you can compare something to one of the best arcade racing games ever made, whether it's on N64 or in arcade, you know you're doing a great thing. There's so many fun courses in this game, so many fun shortcuts, and of course a metric crap ton of different Beetles to race as, and maybe that's why this game didn't hit as much as every other arcade racing game on N64, just because if you've raced one Beetle, you kind of feel like you've raced them all, even if they do have different attributes. So it's one of those things I feel like this game could have been maybe more successful had it not actually had the entire Beetle license around it from Volkswagen. But it has a really fun, pretty chill soundtrack as well, so it's going to be the next soundtrack sample. Go ahead and listen for 35 seconds, but come back because I still have some games to show you. But enjoy. I mean, honestly, it's pretty relaxing music. Maybe not the best thing you would want out of an arcade racing game at N64. It doesn't really drive the action that much further forward, but it still works for what the game's trying to do. Beetle Adventure Racing is just one of those titles. I got it back in the day because it was on sale at EB Games. I fell in love with it. I've still been playing it to this day, and if there's one game I'd love to see get a decomp and PC port, as far as racing on the N64 is concerned, Beetle Adventure Racing would be my #1 choice. Now moving over to a very familiar character but a different game. This is Goemon, but it's Goemon's Great Adventure, and I feel like 99 out of 100 people, if they hear Goemon and N64 in the same sentence, are going to think of Mystical Ninja starring Goemon, the 3D action platformer with light RPG elements, where Goemon's Great Adventure is basically a 2D side-scrolling game with a few 3D elements mixed in, and that's why I definitely put it on the Hidden Gems playlist, even though, again, it's something that I feel like a decent amount of people do know. But if you're new to the Nintendo 64 and you look up N64 Goemon game, you're going to get the 3D action platform. You're not going to get Goemon's Great Adventure showing up in many lists whatsoever, and that's just a bummer because there's so many good 2.5D games back in the 32 and 64-bit era, stuff like Klonoa and Tomba, even Pandemonium, that are going to get mentioned, but for some strange reason, Goemon's Great Adventure seems to get omitted from a lot of the conversation, and I really think that's just because this was the era where everyone wanted 3D, so when you had an awesome 3D Goemon game on N64, something like a 2.5D platformer just didn't have the same cachet and didn't draw gamers' attentions as much, which is just absolutely a letdown because trust me, if you've never played this game before, it's incredible. It seems like Kirby 64 got all the credit for being a 2.5D game on N64, where Goemon's Great Adventure got none of it. And because it is a Goemon game, the soundtrack is a straight 10 out of 10, so it's going to be our next soundtrack sample, 45 seconds, and I'll be right back. I think the best part about the Goemon's Great Adventure soundtrack is just how unique it is compared to basically anything else on the N64, even Mystical Ninja starring Goemon. It hits every single time I listen to it, so trust me, if there's one game out of this list you've seen so far that I want you to play outside of any other, if you haven't played it before, it's Goemon's Great Adventure. It's just a straight up 10 out of 10 in my opinion, and I feel like it's a game that basically got passed by back when it was new, but now the good thing is in 2025, you can go play it and just pretend it's more like it's in the 90s. But I still have one last game to show you, and it's one that I feel like most people have at least seen, but it's one of those games. Rare made so many different titles on N64 and so many acclaimed titles, stuff like GoldenEye, stuff like Perfect Dark, you have all the Banjo games, you have Conker's Bad Fur Day, so Blast Corps basically just gets completely forgotten about in that discussion of Rare developed games. It is a simple game, you just need to destroy a metric crap ton of stuff in the arena. It is something that doesn't really have much depth, but it has a lot of fun action to it, and it's one of those things, if you're looking for a distraction game, if you just played Ocarina of Time, something like Majora's Mask, or any of the other multiple dozen hour games on N64, and you just want to see some N64 aesthetics for 30 minutes, maybe an hour, then Blast Corps has you absolutely covered. All of the explosions, all the particles flying around are a ton of fun, and at least in the MiSTer FPGA Turbo Core, you can even get a decent frame rate out of the game because it used to definitely chug on real hardware. And honestly, being able to fly around as a jetpack superhero, just basically curb stomping buildings out of existence, you have to love something like that. Leave me a comment down below and you tell me if there's a part 2 to this video, what hidden gems would you want to put in, because there's so many different games on N64 that I could be talking about, but I'm curious to hear what you guys would recommend. But short of that, definitely check these games out. I think you're going to have a lot of fun, and tell me what your favorite of the 5 was. I'd be curious to hear as well. We're going to keep smashing some buildings, and I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye bye.